Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Holy Donuts podcast. I'm your host, Matt Lombardi, and today I am joined by David Schwab, President and Chief Strategist at Three Dot Media, a digital agency that works with nonprofits. David, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, pumped to have you. Pumped to have everyone else watching along for the ride. Just quick word. Got to pay the advertisers. Super grateful for the sponsorship of WeGive for this episode of the podcast. If you're looking for a world-class donor experience, go check out WeGive.com. Now, David, give us a little bit of background of, man, how you got into nonprofit land. I know you've got experience in the tech side. Now your agency life. We met through a mutual connection, Andrew Olson over at Dickerson Baker, great guy. So just give us a little bit of the story of kind of how you got into this space.
So I, like many of you all listening and many people who have found themselves in the fundraising world, fell into fundraising on accident. I was graduating college, had $200 in my bank account, and I had no job offers, and got a call from a company that I had interned with. They had a job up, and they happened to be a fundraising agency.
Gotcha.
So I fell into fundraising on accident and absolutely loved it. I got to work with, so the first 2 years of my career were working with faith-based homeless shelters across the country. My whole job was telling people how they could feed and shelter someone for $1.50. And to see that kind of scale, that kind of impact, and hear those stories from across the country, I was like, how can you not love this?
Absolutely.
So that's how I got my career started. I also recognized direct mail probably wasn't the future of fundraising. So I took a bit of a career pivot, went to the for-profit commercial world, did social, digital, influencer, all of that style marketing, with the intent that I was like, hey, I want to go learn what the big players in the space are doing, bring it back to the sector, right? To the social impact sector. So about 5 years ago, I came back to the social impact sector. Worked with our friend Andrew Olson at an agency, like 2 or 3 agencies ago for both of us now. But we worked together I was leading digital fundraising. He was leading the agency for social impact organizations, specifically ministries and organizations like that. Then I took, like you said, a brief stint in the tech side. So as a digital strategist, it was part of my role was, hey, how do we have better structure behind what we're trying to do, right? So we're spending all this money to send a bunch of people to a broken infrastructure. What if we spent all that money to rebuild the infrastructure? And I got really, really excited about that and spent some time actually in the nonprofit tech space, specifically to say, hey, this is better, this is available. You got, like, the whole industry needs to be asking for more. And I'm going to go spend all my time talking about it. But I really missed consulting and being on the ground with funders and fundraising leaders. So I'm actually back now in the space, and I'm starting a fundraising agency, like you said, Three Dot Marketing.
Awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool. So, okay, I love your background because it spans corporate impact and then also kind of agency life, tech, literally the full gamut of kind of like the stack of what you'd ideally want, right, with a partner. So with what you've seen in digital, obviously, let's kind of segment out direct mail and say, hey, let's not talk about that today. Most of the audience and the marketing teams at their Christian nonprofit, they're in the development team, advancement, whatever they're calling it, right? Could you share a strategy? Maybe it's just a principle that you've kind of taken to heart that's unique to you. Like, no, I really think this is the crux of how we digital fundraising. Could be a specific campaign that, like, no, this strategy, they need to work. Could you just share some little nugget from your experience that you think would be really helpful for the audience out there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as simple as it sounds, just do it. There's so many organizations and leaders I work with who are still afraid to lean into digital because it doesn't work. But it doesn't work because we haven't done anything with it.
Right.
We haven't updated our tech stack for 15 years, and we're wondering why our CRM isn't giving us automated insights. Well, it's because it was built to run a direct mail campaign 20 years ago. So really, it's just do it. But if for those organizations who are like, duh, I'm doing it, Schwab, my go-to strategy, and it's I promise it's not a cop-out, this is the best thing for you, is to run an integrated marketing program across as many channels as you can.
Yep, absolutely.
Tell the same story you're telling in direct mail with your organic social, with your paid social, with your display ads, with your search ads, with your connected TV if you can afford it. Like, when you do that, your entire program lifts. You'll acquire
Yeah.
more donors, you'll retain more donors, you'll raise more money just by telling a cohesive story across channels
Mm.
and being invested in more than one place. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's called omni-channel marketing, surround
Yep.
sound fundraising. It goes by many different names, but really
Yeah.
like it is a fundamental strategy that every fundraiser needs to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, like that's something that we're passionate about as well, which is just like, hey, we call it broad-based donor programs, right?
Yep.
Like it needs to be hitting every channel you possibly can.
Well, hey there, Holy Donuts listeners. Ever feel like your nonprofit's donor experience is like a jelly filled donut with no jelly? Well, don't fret, we found the jelly to your donut dilemma. Enter WeGive, the software tool that's like the cream filling to your eclair, or should I say, the glaze to your donut. With WeGive, you're not just taking a donation, you're rolling out a red carpet for every person who gives to your organization. And with WeGive, you get an incredible donor portal, events, pledges, surveys, segmentation, on and on we could go on the features. And those checkouts, though, smoother than my attempt to make homemade donuts, which let's just say didn't quite rise to the occasion. See what I did there? With WeGive's innovative engagement tools, your donors won't just feel the love, they'll be coming back for second. Because nothing says thanks for your dough better than a world-class experience. So if you want to sprinkle some extra special magic on your donor relationships, check out wegive.com.
Okay, I'm gonna nerd out with you a little bit. Talk about
Do it.
some of the organizations listening, right? So some people out there, their nonprofit's doing $500,000 a year, and they're like,
Yep.
okay, we're barely scraping by. Some of them out there are doing 500 million a year, and they're like, David Schwab, we get it, we're doing that. But like, what do you do when it's tell one story across the board? Talk to us a little bit through, like, I know even like some of the ministries we work with and you do have 10, 15, 20 different programs, right?
Yep.
Under their umbrella. Can you help us think through segmentation a little bit more? And like, how do you get those ministries telling a cohesive story or maybe separate stories and not stepping on each other's toes for donors?
Um, there's no right answer to this, and it is something a lot of organizations struggle with because, like you said, they so many different ways they change lives,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
each life change deserves to be a story told,
Hmm.
but you can't tell all the stories well. So I think it really comes down to testing. Find out what story, what ministry, what service line resonates really well with the mass market. You've got to acquire donors, and they don't have to know everything you do. If you are a global ministry and you fund children's relief and you do medical relief and you send missionaries and you deliver Bibles and you have clean water projects, those are all great things. Donors don't need to know all of those things and understand all of those things before choosing to invest in your organization. Lead with one and figure out what acquires the best audience. And chances are 2 or 3 of your services are going to be your best acquisition lines. And there's going to be different segments in the market that are going to want to invest in different things that you do. And then once you already have that invested relationship, use your own channels to educate. Hey, did donor, you leaned into our missionary sponsorship. Did you also know that we do X, Y, and Z? Would you consider supporting those as a monthly donor? Right? That's a great way to turn a one-time donor into a recurring giver when you can show the breadth of their impact once
Yeah.
they're already in. But if you try to educate a donor on everything you do in every communication, you're just going to confuse people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's such good advice, and I mean, to go to kind of corporate language, like your other programs are such beautiful cross sell opportunities, and I
Exactly.
would say they're retention strategies, right? I mean, like
Yep.
it's literally, hey, how do we do retention? Well, don't try to give them everything. Use those extra programs as, hey, maybe they've shown propensity towards this one program that you've kind of thrown the cherry bomb in a little bit to see if they'd
Yep.
be interested in it. Okay, now we know we can segment them out. So I love that, man. That's great advice. Let's go macro since we kind of zoomed in micro. On the macro level for nonprofit, for ministries,
Mm-hmm.
what's a trend that's got you pretty excited about what's coming next, and what's one that's got you a little bit concerned?
Well, I'd say AI, but I think everyone is saying AI right now.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm not going to go that route
yeah,
because I'm sure you've had many good conversations about AI already.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I'm going to take a step broader. It's nonprofit technology.
yeah.
Um, it 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, when I came back to the sector, your choices were 2 or 3 products,
Right.
or go get something from the corporate world. Now there is an entire industry of custom built, freaking awesome
Yeah.
nonprofit technology designed specifically for what you're trying to do. You don't have to go get a commercial platform that's, pardon my language, but dumbed down for us, right?
So. Yeah.
You can go get something equally as good, if not better, built specifically for fundraisers and what you're doing on the front lines of fundraising. And that's not just CRM. That's CRM, marketing automation, fundraising platform, website, CMS, everything you need to solve as a fundraiser. There is technology built for you. And that's what makes me real excited. And there's competition. 5-10 years ago, there was no competition. So you paid for Salesforce or you paid for Blackbot.
Yep.
Like that was the choice.
Yep.
Now there's competition, right? And competition ends benefiting the market.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. And we even see this with some clients where they're, it's kind of a shift in this like custom legacy software they built in-house, right? And so one I can pick up specifically, complete custom build on Oracle. Takes a full dev team to continue to make updates. I mean, they're spending millions of dollars a year on custom built software. The problem is that was their best option 17, 18 years ago.
Yep.
But now we've had to come in and say, hey, you're spending all this money. You can get a better product than what you have custom built in-house for fractions of the cost. And that's almost a difficult switch. Like mentally, that's a hard switch for them to make. So like, wait, so you're saying we've been wasting money? It's like, no, you weren't wasting money. The market has just caught up in terms of competition and quality of technology. So yeah, man, see that all the time. Absolutely love that. Is the tech side something that has you concerned as well, or is there something else that has you concerned?
What has me concerned is donor retention rates.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a strategy or a tactic or a thing. It is donor retention rates and the fact that they keep going down. It's a hard time to be a fundraiser, period, right?
Yeah.
The market's tough. The inflation's up. We all see the headlines. We all share the headlines. We all know what's going on. We all feel it. We all see it in our results. If we're lucky, we're flat year over year.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me. Not in a concerns me we can't do anything about it, but concerns me that we aren't doing anything about it.
Yeah. That's great, man. So let's camp out on retention for just a minute. Because I was with a client last week and we walked through their retention strategy, and it was essentially the same thing that they've been. I mean, it was good. It was like best practices from 10 to 15 years ago, right? It's hey, we're gonna send out, we have this, I think it was like a quarterly like thank you letter, like handwritten notes, right? I think it was twice a year handwritten notes, and then 2 quarterly thank you letters that were like printed and like signed off on, right? And then the occasional call, use a call center to make the occasional call. Thank you, voicemail drop. Not even really that. It was like literally call center calls. And that was the extent of it. And that's how we do retention, which is better than what most organizations are doing. But it still seems like it's 15 years in the past. Anything that you'd recommend that you're seeing that works, or that might be, hey, some things to try or test out that is not that kind of old school model?
Video. We all have better cameras in our pocket than the best production studio had 15 years ago. Grab your phone, do literally like this forward-facing video from your CEO or your exec director, record 2 minutes of talking about a story or thanking donors or tell something that just happened in one of your programs, and send it via email, send it via text message, put it on your website, put it on YouTube. It ultimately comes down to delivering content that builds relationships in the way people want to engage with content. And the way people want to engage with content is video, period.
Absolutely. That's great, man. That's great. Okay. Let's move a little bit into, as we have a few more minutes left here. Always like to ask, what resources do you recommend for folks out there in nonprofit land? Could be your own, if you've got some stuff that you're working on, or just generally, whether that's blogs, conferences, books, articles, journals, anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, man, we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about this. There's so many resources. But my favorite right now podcast, Marketing Against the Grain by the HubSpot and Zapier CMOs. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. They're talking about everything with AI. Any good idea I have has probably come from that podcast over the last couple months. So that one's a great one. I highly recommend it.
Cool.
We all know them, but Next After always has great resources for digital testing, optimization strategies. We've talked about a couple times. Our mutual friend Andrew Olson, he's always putting out great content specifically about leadership. Right now is his focus. And that one, though, his podcast and his newsletter have been really helpful for me. And then if you want to connect with me, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always talking about new things about digital fundraising, things that I'm surfacing, like, hey, I talked with I've had 4 or 5 different organizations ask me about this week. Let's brain dump, mind share. I'm always trying to add at least some perspective to what's happening in the industry. Sometimes people like them, sometimes people don't, but it's there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And if people want to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best place to connect with you?
LinkedIn, and then if you want to have a conversation, I'm always happy to chat. You can reach me via email, david@3dot.agency. I'm sure we'll link it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
But LinkedIn, email, those are the 2 places I spend most of my time these days.
Awesome. David Schwab, President, Chief Strategist at 3dot Marketing. Thank you so much for the time, man. Super helpful. As always, you're just a wizard with this kind of stuff, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to be here.